Your name is George Washington. Yes, the great man born on a plantation in Virginia, who would one day lead America to one of its greatest moments. Yeah, you're not important right now. Because to really understand why 1776 happened and how you got to be so famous, you've got to go back a bit and take a quick history lesson. I promise I'll make it quick. Okay, you ready? Let's go. Taxes, protests, and violence. There's really no one else who can inspire this type of fun quite like the British. But if you have your foot on someone's neck long enough, at some point they're gonna want to switch roles. And that's mainly what happened in America, 1776. Chapter 1. The Build-Up. From 1756 to 1763, Britain fought France and its allies in the Global 7 Years' War. While in North America, the fighting had already begun in 1754, known there as the French and Indian War. At the time, you were just a militia officer stationed in Virginia, and you also kinda helped start this war, but that's another story. Britain won the war, but has spent an enormous amount of money fighting the war, and its national debt had increased by roughly $60 million. America at this time was made up of 13 British colonies who differed in certain ways, but we're gonna get back to that. Britain believed the colonies should contribute more toward the enormous cost Britain had gotten defending its North American empire. Hey, we kind of fought this war for you guys, and now we owe a lot of money. Yeah, we appreciate you guys for that. And good luck with that whole money situation. Yeah, but since we helped you guys, we were thinking maybe you could help us? Help you with what? The debt. Oh. Nah. Then we're just gonna tax you. And tax you they did. The Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, the Tea Act. Yes, there was a tax even for tea. The colonial people absolutely hated it, especially because they had no representatives in the parliaments that imposed these taxes. Protests were held, and tension between the colonial people and British forces kept rising. And soon enough, something regrettable happened. On the 5th of March, 1770, there was a confrontation involving an angry crowd and British soldiers, and a group of British soldiers opened fire on civilians, killing 5 of them. This was later known as the Boston Massacre. The event inflamed anti-British sentiments throughout the colonies. While all this was going on, you were busy planting in your estate at Mount Vernon. You still served in the Virginia House of Burgesses, but your plants? Yeah, they were the shit. 3 years later, in 1773, as an act of protest against taxation, a group of men disguised as Mohawk Indians boarded East India Company ships and dumped their tea into the Boston harbor in front of a large crowd. This was later called the Boston Tea Party. The British were livid. Everyone knows you don't mess with their tea. They responded by tightening their grip on Massachusetts and Boston in general, introducing what the colonists called the Intolerable Acts, further strengthening intercolonial resistance. And where were you while all of this was happening? You sure do love your plants. The height of the tension came in 1775 when British forces marched toward Concord to seize colonial military supplies while also seeking to arrest revolutionary leaders. It was generally meant to be a bloodless mission, but things quickly got out of hand and a shot was fired. The shot heard around the world. No one really knows who actually fired the shot, but that alone was enough to start a fight. The fighting spread, the colonies began raising armies, and everything went from protests to armed rebellions. The British now had a revolution brewing right in front of them. And now this is where you come in. You're still not the George Washington everyone knows, but you're well on your way there. You are appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army in June 1775. Now, you may be a military veteran, but you have a problem. Your army is mostly inexperienced and undersupplied, and you're going up against Britain, one of the most powerful armies in the world. How do you defeat them? Now this is where the real story starts. Chapter 2. A Shift in Perspective. In January 1776, a man named Thomas Paine published a pamphlet titled Common Sense. In it, he basically questioned the monarchy and asked why the colonies should be ruled by a king. It became really popular and really influential. Ordinary people began discussing more and more on independence. There has been some fighting going on in different parts of the colonies, but Boston is where it's hottest. You take command of the army besieging Boston and eventually force the British out of Boston, earning you your first major victory. Way to go, Commander Washington. Yeah, great job, sir. Thank you, my brave fellows. While I am not insensible to the polite testimonies of your regard, the hand of Providence has disposed matters in our favor far above any poor agency of mine. If an overarching rectitude has crowned our maneuvers with success, it is but a natural result of your own subordination to discipline. Therefore, let us not attribute to human genius what is merely a temporary indulgence of heaven. Huh? But your little victory in Boston angered a whole lot of important people thousands of miles away. You're about to get a handful of problems and you don't even know it. Not only did these peasants have the balls to revolt against you, they even went as far as declaring themselves independent. On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, declaring the 13 colonies to be free and independent states. They even destroyed a statue of you, King George. Your beautiful caricature sullied by some small fry. Okay then, if they want to be independent so badly, you will show them how much power a real independent nation has. You decide to send the largest British force yet assembled for the war in North America. Let's see if those colonies can survive this. As a military veteran, you anticipated that the British would aim for New York since it's a strategic position. So, you set up the city's defenses and your forces there ahead of time. Then the British arrive. The Battle of Long Island took place in August, and your army got your asses kicked. Bad. You retreat, then you retreat again, and again. The British capture New York City and push your army back across New Jersey. By late 1776, the revolution looks like it might be collapsing, and some people are even starting to lose faith in you. Georgie, what's going on, man? Get your head in the game. Your army's morale is collapsing. Supplies are scarce, and the harsh winter is taking its toll on all of you. You need a victory, and you need it fast. But they don't call you Get to Win Fast Washington for no reason. On Christmas night, 1776, you cross the Delaware River and decide to go on the offensive, and your target is Trenton, New Jersey. It's guarded by Hessians, German troops hired by the British. On the 26th of December 1776, you and your army attack, and you kick some serious German ass. You gather prisoners, weapons, and supplies. It's the end of the year, but with this victory, the revolution is no longer considered dead. People's faith in you is beginning to be restored. But while you were gaining fame from this fight for independence, the revolution meant something completely different to different people. Let's see what their lives were like during all of this. Chapter 3. Fight for what you want. You are an ordinary woman living in New York, 1776. Your husband left home to join the revolutionary fight, so you've had to take charge of the family business and keep the home running on your own. The colonies just banded together to declare its independence from the British, and since then, it's not been very pretty. There's been a lot of fighting going on, and fighting is really bad for business. All the boycotts and protests don't really do well for trading. And you can't even drink tea anymore because now that's not cool. The only thing left to do is monitor what's going on with the war. You heard Washington managed to push the British out of Boston. What a man. You wouldn't mind letting him take a peek under your corset. But the war itself isn't really what catches your attention. Just like you, there are thousands of women who have had to take charge of farms and businesses because their husbands are away. The workload is tiresome, and the war just makes it 10 times worse. You also heard that thousands of the men who went to fight in the war joined the side of the British troops. You figured these men were loyalists, people who believed British rule was best for the colonies and stayed loyal to the crown. To think they would join sides with the British and fight against their fellow colonial people. But the most heart-throbbing news you heard was about the African American slaves. Thousands of them joined both sides of the war in hopes that they would gain their freedom in the event of a victory. The British even went as far as to promise freedom to escaped slaves if they joined the British forces. Sadly, even after thousands of them risked their lives on both sides, many who fought or fled with the British did not get the freedom they had hoped for, and some were eventually returned to slavery. It would take almost another century before slavery was abolished throughout the United States by the 13th Amendment in 1865. Towards the north, there were also some Native Americans who feared an expansion from the American colonies and believed the British would do well to prevent something like that from ever happening. So, some native nations allied themselves with the British. Now, The Continental Army, which was basically a ragtag army of inexperienced soldiers, faced off against a global superpower who had allies from different places supporting their cause against the revolution. The army would have been dead in the water if not for the support they got from France later on. France was secretly supplying assistance before formal recognition, but the formal Franco-American alliance came in 1778 after the American victory at Saratoga. You see, France had lost the 7-year war against Britain and had to give up their North American territories to them. So you can say they were a little bit too eager to help with the American Revolution, especially when you consider that they treat their people just as bad, if not worse, than how the British treated the colonies, at least in the way I see it. 1776 saw a huge amount of episodes that altered the course of American history forever. But the war didn't officially end until the 3rd of September, 1783, where the Treaty of Paris was signed. The last major campaign ending in 1781 at the Siege of Yorktown. America still went through different periods of strife later on in their history, before fully becoming what they are today. Washington turned into a legend, becoming the first president of the United States of America under the new US Constitution. And legend has it that till this day, no one in Boston still drinks any tea.